Well, well, well. Oh, my foot cramped instantly. You can't see it, but I'm standing in a really awkward way so that my foot cramp doesn't take me down. So I went and saw Send Help. I'm going to talk a lot of spoilers, so just be prepared for that. And the biggest spoiler for me about my opinion is I think this movie shit the bed. I was really hyped for this movie. I was ready for this to be like movie of the year for me. The trailer is great. It set up a really straightforward, almost like a power flip revenge movie. It's like a little Drag Me to Hell, a little Castaway, a little Lord of the Flies, and maybe a sprinkle of Misery. Turns out it's a lot more misery than I expected. The movie and the emotion. It really becomes, let me get into it. I want to say this first. Super hyped on the trailer. Maybe a month ago, I went into the movie theater to get popcorn because a little pro tip, if the movie theater's not playing a movie you want to see, but you still want to support your movie theater, just go get a bucket of popcorn and take it home. You don't have to see a movie to get popcorn. But I saw the poster for Send Help, and it was a great poster. It was very kind of grindhousey or exploitation. It reminded me a little bit of like I Spit on Your Grave, but not so sort of like almost like an empowered version of the I Spit on Your Grave poster, just in terms of like that sort of grimy quality. But great poster. And at my theater, they do mini posters just out for free. And I'm sure they do that at lots of chains, but I'll grab them. Like, even if it's a movie I'm Luke Skywalker on, it's like, it's hard to pass up a free poster, right? It's not like they take up a lot of room. But I'd been kind of keeping an eye out for the Send Help mini poster. And I don't know, a few days ago, I went up to the counter and I asked, hey, are you going to have Send Help mini posters? Because I usually put them out pretty early. And the guy said, well, no, I don't think we're going to have the mini posters. I said, oh, that's too bad, because you had the big poster up in one of the light boxes, and it was just, it's such a cool poster. And he goes, well, do you just want the big one? And I said, I did not know that was an option. I was so gobsmacked. It turned me into Colonel Sanders for just a second. I said, well, I had no idea, so that this was a possibility to perchance to acquire the full-size poster. So he goes, yeah, no, when we're done with posters, we just give them to people. So I am your singing telegram. I have the movie theater Send Help poster. And it is an awesome poster. It's double-sided, as you can see. Have you missed me? I haven't. I got to deal with me all day, every day. In any case, so Send Help really had the makings of like such a great movie. The first half hour does such a good job setting up these characters. And Rachel McAdams as Linda Little is so good. Even when I really don't like where the story goes, her performance is great. And I have, over the last, handful of movies with her, I've really become a big fan. I think she is such a genuine, I'm trying to think of the right words. Her performances they're genuine, but there's so many subtle things going on in her performance all the time. The choices, the little quirky choices that she's always making, they just feel, when you see her in a movie, I'm like, well, that just must be who she is. But then it's not at all. She's so good at playing a real feeling character. Yeah, just a phenomenal actor. But they do such a good job of setting these characters up and setting up the dynamic, setting up she is, this awkward, kind, genuine person, but she's in this corporate world that is cutthroat, that is all about schmoozing, and it's all the driven corporate douchebags are the ones that are like getting ahead, and they're the ones, they're like taking credit for her work, and she's up for a vice president, a promotion, and it ends up going to this douchebag that is like old frat buddies with the new boss. And the new boss is, took over the company from his dad. So he's basically a Nepo baby and just a giant prick, and is so awful to her. And they sort of set up this great, like within the structure of this corporate world, he is the most powerful and she is the least she's powerless. He is power more, she is powerless. And when those characters, there's a plane crash, they end up on a deserted island, and when all of the structure that keeps him powerful and keeps her powerless goes away, what happens? And he is injured, so there's his physical power is even taken away. And she was somebody who was a giant fan of Survivor, so and was trying out for Survivor, and that's the moment in the movie that should like solidify how she feels about this guy, because she posted a video auditioning for Survivor, and all these douchebags find the video and they're laughing at it, making fun of her on the plane right before the plane crashes. But so she has all these survival skills. So in this world, in this situation, she has gone from no power to all the power. And it sets up in the trailer you see it where she's like, "You're not the boss anymore. I am." And it sets up like sort of a version of Lord of the Flies, but that is also kind of a revenge movie. Like, that's what I wanted this movie to be. And I wanted him to be an awful scumbag taking advantage of her. Like, what you want is sort of like a version of Misery where James Caan is the villain. That's what you want. Unfortunately, the movie gives Linda a terrible character trait, terrible character motivation, and it turns her into the villain immediately. After they spent so much time building her up as a likable character, and again, I'm spoiling things, she is in love with the guy. And now is his name Bradley? I honestly can't remember now. It really doesn't matter. They sort of like hint at the beginning of the movie that, she sort of has a crush on him a little bit. He's handsome and he's powerful. And she's like, oh, at the Christmas party, he was flirting with me at the Christmas party. But then he's just a giant douchebag and is so horrible to her, and is so horrible to her the moment before the crash. And then they crash, and then he continues to be horrible to her. And what you find out as the movie goes along is that very early on, they could have been rescued, but she chose to not get help. She finds out on the other side of the island that there's a mansion, and she could have called for help a long time ago, and she didn't, because she has this romance novel idea that the two of them will fall in love and they will live on this desert island together forever. So the movie goes from what should be, what appears to be, they're, again, storytelling. They're leading us down the path of, this is going to be a story of empowerment. This is going to be a story of a woman who is powerless becoming the alpha dog on this island, and basically making this guy pay for how awful he has been out there in the real world, in the corporate world. And she's gonna stick it to him. Instead, what the movie reveals is that she just loves him. She just loves this asshole that is awful to her. She just wants to live on this island with him forever. She just wants him to fall in love with her. That is an awful message. It is the opposite of empowering, as I said. It makes her immediately so much worse of a person than he ever was. Like, yeah, he's a corporate douchebag, and they throw little hints at infidelity, and he's obviously not a good guy, but she is worse. And you don't do that. You don't. If the movie Misery, as it exists now, if it spent the first hour convincing you that Kathy Bates was the hero of the story, and then at the end went, well, no, actually she was crazy and she was manipulating the situation, like, that wouldn't be a good movie. And that's exactly what Send Help turns into. I guess I don't need to spoil like specific details, but I will say there comes a point where they are rescued. Like, people show up on the island to rescue them, and they find her first. And she doesn't want the romance novel, the deserted island fantasy, to end. So she murders them. Just in cold blood, just crushes a guy's head in with a big rock. How is that supposed to be the hero? Like, I get the idea of that, the power flip, and that's sort of that Lord of the Flies revenge. Like, it still ultimately has to become that, that version of the story, ultimately, she sort of has to do bad things. She has to do things that in civilized society would be heinous. But at the end, again, it would be sort of like, well, what all she really did was like do bad things to bad people. And ultimately, and again, you could structure it like he was sort of playing her and he was manipulating her during the situation, during the survival situation. And he at some point turns on her and becomes like, it could feel like, oh, he's changing, where the movie is sort of more like she's changing from a good person into a bad person. But in reality, she basically turns into a bad person the second they hit the island. And it makes you feel like, well, has she been a bad person in her heart the whole time and just, been capable of all these awful things like out there? I would have rather see this again. Like, it's easy to say, well, that's, maybe it's more straightforward. Maybe it's less of a curveball. But I think cliches, I think a sort of a typical structure, the reason we engage with it is because we relate to it, is because, you can say, I forget what they always say, like, there's only 7 stories. And we just keep telling the same 7 stories over and over again. And we just find different ways to tell those same stories. And I think that's true, but I think that's also because, like, there are fundamental things about the human experience that we connect to and that we relate to. And if you veer too far away, or you set something up and you set a character up to be sympathetic, and then you sort of say, well, no, actually, they've just been an awful person basically from the beginning. Well, then why was I on the journey with these characters? Like, why did I take this journey? Why did you tell me this story if I'm not going to connect? Because they're both, at the end of the day, like, you shouldn't connect to either of these characters. So I just feel like the movie starts so strong. The movie is just hitting bullseyes one after the other. It's doing such a good job. It's telling me, like, I was so in until they get to the desert island. And then every storytelling decision took me further and further out. It made me want to get off the ride, like every step of the way. And you know how in you always say, or like, there's when you're watching a horror movie and you're like, you're thinking to yourself like, oh, that, like, don't go in there, don't open that door, like, get out of the house. Like you think about what the characters are doing, and you sort of are like yelling at the characters to make better decisions. I was doing that with this movie, but I was doing it with the director and the writer. And I don't know if Sam Raimi wrote this movie. I didn't look that up. I guess I could look at the poster. But the whole time I was like, oh, don't do that with this character. Oh no, don't do that with this character. Like, it was just such a miss. And again, it starts so strong that I almost feel more betrayed by it than if it had just been sort of that, if it had just missed the mark throughout, if it had just not fundamentally not understood itself from beginning to end. But it seemingly had such a clear vision of the story it wanted to tell in that first half hour. And then it's almost like they forgot to save the script, and they just started, like, somebody else had to like quickly write the rest of, like, rewrite the script based on like a description that somebody told somebody that told somebody. Like, I don't know. It just lost its grip on a great story so quickly, and so, so totally. So yeah, I guess I don't really have much else to say about it. It was a bummer. I was really, I will say this, I don't think being hyped on a movie, I don't think that lets you down. Like, I don't think going in being like, this movie's gonna be great, and then if it's just okay, like, I don't feel let down by that. Like, I love movies. I love being told a story. I love being entertained. I love, a movie that's just great visually. I'll eat it up too. But I feel like even if I had just gone in with no expectations, the fatal flaws in the characterizations and the storytelling and the journey that this movie took us on, I think I would have walked out the same way. Whether I knew nothing about the movie or had been hyped ahead of time, I think I would have walked out with the same opinion. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. Obviously, if you went and saw it, please get down in the comments and let me know kind of where you stand on it. I'm kind of curious because, Sam Raimi has very dedicated fans, and I'm curious to see sort of where people land on this movie, because it is no Drag Me to Hell. I would watch, I enjoy Drag Me to Hell so much. I would watch it every day of the week before I would probably watch this movie one more time. So yeah, anyway, if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button. I'm happy to be back making videos. I will say, I feel like I shoot myself in the foot every time I talk about upload schedule. But I will say, so we're not going to talk about that, but I wanted to address sort of the vibe of the upcoming videos. I really, I've tried high effort videos, I've tried low effort videos, and ultimately I'm more fulfilled by the high effort videos. So I am going to, I think this is how it's going to work. When I talk about a new movie, which I'm probably not going to talk about tons of new movies, but on the occasion where there is a new movie that I have an opinion on, they'll be more like this. They'll be more freeform, unscripted. Like, this is just sort of my raw thoughts rambling. When I talk about an old movie, I want to treat those more like a little retrospective, a little bit of a, maybe like not quite mini documentary. Like, they're still just reviews, but they'll be more high effort. They'll be scripted. You know, I want to show lots of B-roll from the movie. My video about the Robin Williams movie Toys, I think, is a video I'm very proud of. And I think it's kind of a good blueprint for how those kinds of videos should be. You know, not crazy long, you know, probably under 10 minutes, but giving you lots to look at, and scripting, which means I can tell you a lot more with a lot fewer words. That's the one problem with rambling like this, is I could have conveyed all of this information to you probably in 5 minutes, but that's not how my brain works when I'm just spitballing. So yeah, so I think that's kind of the idea. So, you know, be on the lookout, be prepared, get your Mountain Dew, get your Pepsi. And that's you know, I think that's sort of going to be the vibe. We'll see. I still kind of want to get some thrifting videos in here and there. I do film when I can, but there's not a whole lot to see, like there used to be. But I would love to throw those into the mix again too, but I don't know. Again, that's another thing, like, I'm trying to figure out the balance between just doing things for fun that I like, that hopefully you like, but also trying to figure out how to make the algorithm happy too, a little bit. It's like a little for you, a little for me. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I just wanted to put that out there, that I do want to get back into, for old movies, having much more of a scripted structure, like a quicker paced video, and then these sorts of ramble videos. I don't know. I'm not going to commit to any kind of consistency in terms of upload times or anything like that. Just because I know every time I speak it out loud, life happens, and it just gets away from me. So anyway, that's it. That's going to be it for the video. The rambling will stop. Once again, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what you thought of Send Help. Whether you agree with me or not, like, obviously, like, this is not a place for all of us to just polish each other's knobs. You know what I mean? Like, if you liked it and I didn't, like, I want to hear from you too. I don't want us to be shouting at each other and just saying, like, you're stupid, like, you didn't get it, you didn't blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I like to hear other people's perspectives on this stuff. So don't come at me. Don't tell me I'm wrong, but just tell me your feelings. Like,